Cool. So thank you so much for joining me with the self-care incentive.
Absolutely.
I thought it would be really a good time to reach out and talk to different experts, healers, coaches about their take on self-care, get their kind of express how varied self-care can be, and get some ideas out to some people that may not be doing self-care regularly. Yeah, cool. So if you want to just take a minute, we will, this is already recording. Thanks for allowing that. And if you want to just kind of introduce yourself and tell everybody about you and your business and what you do.
Yeah. So I am Elizabeth Sherman. I am a life and weight loss coach. And what that means is that I help mostly women over the age of 45 to create simple, easy to do habits, focusing on their hormones and balancing their hormones so that they can feel good, have energy, sleep well, reduce hunger, and reduce cravings. Because when we can balance our hormones, then our weight will, come in line. I like to call it right sizing versus necessarily losing weight. Because most women who are over the age of 45 don't necessarily want a six pack anymore. And so they just want to feel good in their clothes again and feel confident. And so that's how I work with them. And what I've found over the years is that women are, they're giving so much of themselves to others, and they're not taking enough care for themselves. And so I've really started to work more with women in thinking about their body image, thinking about what they need themselves in order to feel full and whole as people, and also rediscovering who they are, because so many women are my age are going through this like midlife rediscovery, and it's really kind of neat to help them through that.
Wow, that's so amazing. And so that really resonates with me. I was diagnosed with cancer about 7 years ago, breast cancer.
Okay.
And so I went through a lot of learning about hormones and the care products that we use, and the chemicals in the products, and yeah, really taking ownership and responsibility for what I'm putting on and in my body. But I totally resonate with that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. So how long have you been doing that as your focus, as your kind of zone of genius, I call it?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've leaned into it as my zone of genius. My story actually starts out in 2001. My mom actually passed away from breast cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so that was the impetus for me getting healthier myself, because I could see at age 33 or however old I was, that if I didn't make changes, that I was headed in that same direction. And so I started getting myself healthier. I started exercising regularly and eating better. And then feeling really kind of lost within my own life. I was working for a software company and not really feeling like I was living my best life at that point. And so I went to a therapist, and she suggested that I get into wellness coaching. And so I was like, oh, I could totally do that. And if I could help at least one person avoid the disease that my mom had, then I feel like I will have lived my purpose. And so I quit my job and started doing some personal training. And so it's really been an evolution to go from personal training and nutrition specifically into wellness coaching, into health coaching, and then now just recently adding life coaching onto that. And the whole reason why I've added life coaching onto that is because I've been preaching to my clients about, exercising, moving, eating better and sleeping better, but we really don't have good advice for how to manage our stress. And when we talk about stress management, what we often talk about is go get a massage or go get a manicure or facial or something like that. And those things are fantastic. I'm not knocking them by any means. I love them. However, for people who can't afford those things, it's not accessible. And it also seems like it's a really prophylactic response to our stress. And so, why can't we be more proactive in our self care, in our stress management, and really attack our stress management from before it even happens? Right?
Yeah.
And so, how do we take care of ourselves so that we minimize the stress that we're going to be encountering?
Yeah. 100%. I think that's why, one of the reasons why I brought in this self-care incentive, because honestly, self-care seems like this huge mountain. It's this huge thing where we almost feel guilty about, oh, I need like a self-care day or I need a spa day. And it's really not that at all. It's taking several minutes here and there throughout the day to refocus, realign, and check into where you are in your body. So I do, my healing system is called kinetic divination. And I tell people all the time to be muscle testing and tuning into your body about what you need at that moment and how, if you're reacting, what is it that you're reacting to? What is that you're engaging with on whatever level, if it's physical, mental, spiritual, or emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself is self-care, to realign and check in with your center to see what you really need in that moment. And it's taking that huge enormity of self-care off of that pedestal of, oh, you know, it's only for people who can afford to go get mani-pedis every week, or it's for those people who can go away to a spa retreat for 14 days. It's taking that huge, enormous kind of weight off of self-care and taking away the guilt and tuning into our body, because it's not a privilege to be able to do self-care. It's a right. It's our responsibility to take care of ourselves. So that's a great perspective and great point.
Yeah. And so what I like to do with my clients is I have this concept called the future version of yourself. And it started when my husband and I got married. We went on a cruise, and there was this French woman on the cruise. And I remember just looking at her and being really fascinated by her for some reason. And I was like, I want to be like her when I grow up. She was like 65 or something like that. And it's kind of funny because that idea has stuck with me in all of those years. Like, what would she do? And I know that I'm totally projecting, like, she probably isn't anything like what I picture her to be, but I had imagined, like, what do I want my future self to be like? And so what I've started doing over the years is actually kind of taking advice from the future version of myself, the person who I want to be, and kind of stepping into her shoes. And so when we talk about, self-care, I think it's really important to think about how the present version of yourself is going to care for the future version of yourself. And so it can look like a couple different things. It can look like either taking a walk instead of eating a cookie. But it can also look like saying no to something now and being able to withstand the discomfort of telling your friend, no, you can't commit to, baking 10 batches of cookies for the bake sale, because you know that you're going to be resentful when you're actually doing it. And so taking care of that version of yourself as well.
Mm.
So it's kind of, stepping into that future version of yourself and really kind of checking in with yourself and alignment in, am I going to want to do this later? How am I going to feel about this later?
Yeah, that's awesome. I do quantum jumping in my business, but an aspect of quantum jumping I took from Neville Goddard is he has this table of experts that he would use to check in with all the time. And these experts were actually people throughout history that he looked up to. And he would sit down with the experts and kind of went, okay, this is a challenge that I'm facing right now. What advice do you have? And he would sit and actually just be open and listen for guidance to come. So that's really cool. And yeah, totally, that was the catalyst for you to see that woman and not project, but to have that catalytic moment so that you can go, yeah, my future self, and have that engagement. I really, really love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So would that be one of if you had the top 3 self-care tips that you would provide for somebody, would that be one of them, or what would your top 3 be?
Oh, wow. Good question. Yeah, so I think that when we're talking about self-care, my first tip would definitely be, because I've never thought about this before, so I'm probably going to stumble through this. But yeah, so the first thing is really, checking in to see who you want to be. Okay, I got it. So who do you want to be in a week, a year, or whatever? So, looking at those future scenarios of yourself and really trying to create a good vision for who you want to be at that time, and then taking advice from her. So yes, that's the first one. But something else, I've done 2 other things recently. One is when I'm faced with a decision, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's in deciding what to eat or what to do, I've been asking myself this question of, what would I do if I loved myself?
Oh, wow.
And it's really helped guide me in making better choices.
Mm.
And then the second question, so this is my third tip, is how do I want to show up in that relationship?
Mm.
And so whether it's a relationship with myself or a colleague or a client or my partner, letting go of the BS that we think of in our brains and really aligning myself and asking, okay, how do I want to be with this person? And then using that as a guide.
Wow. That is so powerful. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Amazing. Really good.
Thanks.
So what is next for you? What are you doing in your business? Where can people find you? How can we get more involved in you and your life and in your business?
Yeah. So, I'm a life and weight loss coach. And when I talk about weight loss, it's really not about the weight, but about women discovering who they are and then honoring that. And then, when you're eating and moving in alignment with who you want to be, your weight is just going to become the weight that you are supposed to be. And you're going to feel good about yourself. So that's kind of my philosophy in my business. You can find me through my website, which is elizabethsherman.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Total Health by Eliz, and Instagram, I'm at eSherman68.
Fabulous. That's so great. I really appreciate you. I want to acknowledge you right now for showing up and participating and giving me your time and giving the tips to all the listeners and people watching. And I really want to acknowledge you. If you have any final words for anybody that doesn't really know about self-care, or maybe feels a little bit guilty about stepping into bringing more self-care into their daily life, do you have any words of wisdom for those people?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely do, because standing up for yourself and saying no or saying yes that you want something can be really hard when we've been taught that we shouldn't want
Yeah.
or that we should take care of others. And so I really dislike the whole analogy of putting on your own face mask before helping others, because I think that inherently we are deserving of our own self-care anyway, and it's not selfish to ask for that. But stepping into that power can be really, really uncomfortable when we're not used to it. And so give yourself compassion and lean into it and start small, and eventually just take bigger and bigger steps, because the confidence competence loop, the more you do it, the better you'll feel about it, the more you'll be able to do it, the better you'll feel about it, and so on and so forth, until you really can step into your own power.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. I often say to try it on, even for 10 seconds. When I started this journey into coaching, I was a teacher for many, many years, a healer for 25 years. But getting into coaching and the enormous, like, it was just, I was watching people like Amanda Francis, who was making, she said she'd make like 100,000 a month, and that couldn't even compute in my head. And I couldn't see that future for me. But could you see 1,000? So trying on that, and then for 10 seconds, and then trying on maybe 2,000, and just taking those little baby steps and trying it on. I kind of align better with that, instead of, because sometimes it's so big to try to, step into a different version of yourself, even the
Right.
version 1 month or 6 months or a year from now may look so different. But if you just try that on just for 10 seconds and see what it feels like.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. Hang around just for a second, and make sure you guys to download the PDF, the Self-Care Incentive PDF that I've made for you through the Kinetic Divination system, so that you can muscle test in your body to see maybe what part of your bodies, your physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and intuitive, is maybe having some resistance with self-care. And then you can really care and send some love to that aspect of yourself. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.